Yo, what is up, friends? Welcome back to another episode of MZUNGU. I know I said to tell me what the series name would be at the end of the last one. I recorded all of these at the same time, so I can't. This episode, we're gonna go over what I did in Kenya, kind of. We did do a lot of outreach and stuff, which we'll get into later, but my main task was to help build a garden. The team consisted of a master gardener named Debbie, like a local farmhand named Daniel, and me, and a bunch of miscellaneous kids that were just free, like Michael and Victor. I think the night guard also helped us at some point. It was just sort of like an Avengers of a whole bunch of different folks coming together to make this garden work. And work the garden did. A surprisingly high amount of the effort of the garden was building the beds. So we were to build a raised bed and then fill it in with soil and then plant. And as we were building, they were like, well, we have the space and the materials, so why don't we just make 3 raised beds? So we did. We just kind of put them in. We had to do some measuring out to sort of get the basis sort of foundation. Then we had to rake and hoe the ground until it was clear of grass so that we didn't have any weird issues, weeds or something like that, trying to come up through the soil after we planted our crops. So we hoed the ground and then we set up those bricks by hand, and everybody contributed, even Debbie. She's pretty goated. Everybody just kind of like locked in for that part, which was pretty awesome because those bricks weren't too heavy, but they weren't light either, for sure. So everybody pitched in for that. Once we got the bricks in place, we secured them with rebar to make sure that the expansion of the soil didn't break down those walls. And then we got the soil trucked in from a construction site, shoveled all that into the raised bed areas. A ton of sheep manure just splatted down, and we just picked that bad boy up with our hands, and sort of, that was an interesting time. The spears and so it was rebar, but they just were kind of like rebar javelins that we just kind of like took and sledgehammered into the ground. If there was an OSHA officer anywhere within like a mile, they would just teleport to our location. I mean, we got it done. Nobody got hurt or anything like that, of course. And so after we got everything in, one of the coolest parts, I think, was when one of the coordinators for Project Lucas, Benjamin, he took Debbie and I out to like this roadside market, which was super sick. Like, we were just on this sort of main highway, and then there were people like on the shoulder of the road selling all sorts of like plants and stuff, and we just pulled over, hopped out, took a look at all the stuff they were selling, and then made some deals. Benjamin did most of the negotiation. He was like, hey, how much does that cost? And she was like, I cost this. And he was like, okay, let's be a little bit more realistic with the price. We're trying to do this for these. And it was cool. It was just really cool. One seeing Benjamin haggle is always pretty neat. But also, they were just selling like fresh, reliable, growable vegetables and plants and fruits on the side of the road. I wish that was more common where I lived. Like, I tried to buy some strawberries for my personal garden, and they didn't do anything. They sold me like sticks inside of a Lowe's, and I'm pretty sure strawberries are supposed to be vines. I don't know, man, but I know in Kenya it was sick. We just sort of pulled over, talked to the lady, got a bunch of cool looking stuff. We got, what plants did we get? I know we threw in strawberries at the end, because we were like, well, I mean, we got space, why don't we just give it a shot? But I know we grew some carrots from seeds though, potatoes, and then some general flowers. I think the flowers were so that the mothers could sell the flowers, either sell them or make something out of them. And I also think it's probably good to plant those flowers to attract some pollinators and things like that and help the local pollinator population. I don't know if that's a problem in Kenya, but it's always nice to have pollinators. Nerdy stuff you don't care about aside, it was a great time building together with Debbie and seeing her experience as a master gardener, collaborating with the Kenyans and their sort of knowledge and wisdom on growing techniques that were unfamiliar to me, but were really cool to see. And I really liked how we got together, we were shoveling, wheelbarrowing, and putting together these plants. The Kenyan kids, the Kenyan young men that were helping us were You know, every time there was a break, they were just kind of like chilling, shooting the breeze, roasting and joking on one another, and it was just a really wholesome time, and it made me feel really connected. At the end, we had a really nice, pretty garden, and Debbie may or may not have cried. I still remember, I got you. And yeah, it was really cool, and I'm excited to go back next year to see how the garden went. That concludes this episode. I know I said these are going to be short, but I have a bad feeling these are all going to be really long. Thank you for bearing with me, and I'll see you next week.